Hello, 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 hello. I'm Fara Gold McLaughlin with Senior Living Foresight, and we are so excited about today's show. We're here to talk to my two favorite Charleses, and I'll say that again when they come on with us. That today we're going to get ready for AHCA, the upcoming conference next week for assisted living, and we really want to talk about kind of where Accushield with Charles Mann's company and KARE with Charles Turner's company, how they're making a difference in senior living. So welcome today, and we look forward to our conversation and our coffee. Hello to
I have
my
seltzer.
Hey,
Charles Mann with Accushield and Charles Turner with KARE. Thank
Hey.
you both. You are beyond my favorite Charleses. I know there's a new
that
king.
means a lot. That does.
Well,
It doesn't really mean anything to me.
Does to me.
I've known you so long that we're on a dusty Texas trail together. Charles, we're both so happy to have you here. I know the Senior Living Foresight team is honored to have both KARE and Accushield as our partners, but we're really here to talk about kind of your big dream as we go into conference season even deeper with AHCA coming up. And I'd love to start, if you don't mind, with Charles Mann, Accushield, how you're keeping us safe and what people should look for when they come to visit you and maybe your booth and what your hopes are for the AHCA meeting.
Yeah, we're excited about AHCA, and Farah, thanks for having me on. And Charles, it's good to be back on with you.
Of course, always.
Accushield right now is really focused on the reporting element. And so that comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes. From a reporting perspective, one of those is how many reviews are you getting on Google Review, right? Yeah. That is a very important part of senior living and skilled nursing marketing. And so Accushield's able to help you generate new reviews using the kiosk and also measure those results for you on our dashboard. In addition, for skilled specifically, right, because we're at AHCA, NHSN reporting, payroll-based journal, infection prevention and control, right, are all things that you're able to manage using our kiosk. And so really sort of the overarching theme of what feature we're really going to be pushing at these oncoming conferences is around reporting and using the kiosk to automate that front desk. And so that's going to be our major push. Yeah, our major push.
That is huge. I was with Abby Ritchie about a week ago, and she was planning to visit a community to serve her clients, and she was able to do your mobile check-in. Yeah. And I was so impressed with that. And
Thank you.
I know a lot of families, they prepare for a visit or a vendor prepares for a visit. So I'm excited to hear about the safety features and the analytics and the reporting. I know if I were back in operation, that would be critical, especially around, like you're saying, a reputation management.
Yep.
And I know Charles Turner, you're also really focused on changing that narrative and story. And I'd love to hear kind of your big ideas for sharing your care value as we go into the AHCA meeting.
Yes, speaking of reputation management, for care going to AHCA, we're going to talk really mostly about how like kiosks and reporting are frankly just a colossal waste of time.
Oh,
no, I'll say like I mean,
I'll get my Hollywood square back in a second.
These are my two Charleses. We play in the sandbox nicely.
I just, all kidding aside, I'm a huge Accushield fan. We were like one of the earliest adopters way back in the day, just watching Accushield grow and like everything has become. It's been just awesome because we were huge believers in the beginning of it. So it's really cool. But from a care perspective, it's been fun, right? We've been on a fun ride. Crazy, obviously growing. I'm hoping most folks know about KARE and what we do and how, I think as people go to AHCA, they're going to see a lot of signage that says staffing agencies suck, and you can't miss it. So obviously come by and talk to us, but a lot of it is we'll talk to folks about why. How KARE, how it's 2022. We don't, there are whatever 6,000 frontline healthcare staffing agencies. Like that's a very inefficient model. And how can we put care in communities, nursing homes, facilities, things like that, right? Directly in touch with caregivers and have them staff, open shifts at a price that we don't set, like our customers set. So it's far less expensive than an agency, and they choose the people that drive their quality metrics. We don't send anybody, and then you can hire people for free. And so, you'll be seeing a lot of that at AHCA from us. But what you'll also be seeing, and frankly, because we have multiple tens of thousands of people working on our platform, is we get to ask these people questions. Like, think about, if you want to ask a whole bunch of frontline caregivers questions, it's hard to do that. Well, luckily we have the ability to do that. We've actually done some work on behalf of AHCA and other associations. Just, we want to research what's going on in labor trends. And so, where I frankly get more excited, I get less excited talking about KARE itself and more about talking about our research and everything we're understanding about, where again, I'm a recovering owner and operator, and how, the assumptions I had as an operator are actually some cases very, very wrong in terms of what attracts frontline workers, why do they stick around, like what benefits do they want, what do they really not want, what do we mean when we talk about respect? And so we just have a lot of information. Like, if nothing else, come by and talk to us, chat about that. We're also co-hosting an event at the Tennessee Titans Stadium, which will be a lot of fun. So come back, punt, pass, and kick in the field. So we always like doing wacky events with folks, and this will be no different.
Yeah, I remember our Gentum, our senior living executive. I love that you brought up Charles, and both Charles Mann and Charles Turner. If a viewer today is an operator, an owner, an investor, the reason your voices are so important is you both have been on the operations side. So you're not just technologists or innovators, and you created something. And that takes me back, Charles, to Mann. I'd love to kind of hear, that you walked in your beloved dad's footsteps in operations. And then that journey really brought you to the Accushield value. And when you think about Accushield in terms of a big dream, we'd love to hear what that big dream looks like for 2023 and the future for Accushield.
Yeah, sure. It really dates back to about 1988 when my grandfather was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. At that point in time, there wasn't assisted living like we know it today. In most cases, that individual would go to skilled nursing and be in that long-term care wing. And assisted living is sort of that cohort of individuals that really said, we need something else. And that is a place where residents can go and age in place. And he had that crazy idea and really wanted a place that his father, my grandfather, could go and spend his final days. And so that's where the idea came from. And so growing up in the industry, watching my dad build buildings and run buildings, I sort of fell into it. It's what I did: summers, holidays, Christmases. It was my job. And most of what I know is just a regurgitation of my dad. And so went to work for him about 11 years ago and was running one of his communities in Buckhead and just couldn't get over the numbers of people that would come and go, specific really to your third-party care providers, right, and agency employees that would come and go, and you really wouldn't know who was in the building. There was no checks and balances, and there was no reporting element. So if I wanted to do anything, I'd go to the paper signing book and I would try and figure out who was there yesterday, the day before. Did the home health provider show up and change, Miss Jane Smith's wound? And so that's where this idea of digitizing that front entry and that kiosk came from. And then through that, we've been able to do a lot of different things. And one of the things that I failed to mention that sort of kind of brings in the KARE conversation is I'm very used to agencies. It is something that if you're in senior living, you understand, and they do suck most of the time. There are some good ones. But to understand when that agency gets there and leaves, right? Our kiosk acts as a time clock for that. And we are about to release a dashboard that laser focuses on agency providers. So you're able to visually see within a community how much internal staff you have versus external staff you have. And the hope is you use KARE because you're going to save a lot of money. So that's my point.
I know you both work so there's a synergy here,
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we look at the world of caregiving as a co-opetition, right? Between all these wonderful solutions that can help an operator. Certainly, if there's an investor on today that thinks that cutting expenses is going to ideally be a way to achieve NOI, I look at your two solutions as being differentiators in how to achieve higher occupancy and certainly give back to the stakeholders the value that they hope. I mean, Charles Turner, I'd love to kind of toggle back to you. I love this idea that Charles Mann at Accushield is talking about, that big vision of making sure we can capture time. When you think of your big dream, Charles Turner, for KARE, what does 2023 look like for KARE and your team?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we're in October now. Like, everyone's kind of going into planning and budgeting and all this other stuff. And what does 2023 look like? I mean, I think, I guess the best analogy is, like, I don't know if you spend any time in West Texas, but like, if you've ever been around tumbleweed, it's just like, this massive chaos, like rolling downhill. But I should say that, but it is sort of organized chaos. When you have something that I think customers really like, and you're trying to figure out how do we get to all markets as quickly as we can, but doing it responsibly. That's what we're looking at, right? So for us, it'll be 2023. We'll be in every state we can get in, at least. So it's pretty much all states in
Alaska.
Yeah. I mean, like, I want to get in Alaska. Like, it's like for like all 7 caregivers that are there, like, they're all ready to go. I know the association really wants us to go there. It's really fun. But yeah, it's so that we're already getting into different lines. We're already even getting out of sort of our core food group a little bit, and senior care and skilled things like that. We're already kind of piloting in some other markets. With expectations we'll ramp up there, but also we'll be adding more and more services to the communities that we already serve. So for us, it is making sure that we bring on the right people, hire the right people. For us, there's a lot of different roles we're hiring for, but for us, you kind of mentioned it fairly. Well, I'm from the industry, Charles is from the industry, and we know what it takes to be successful, but also build relationships in the space. And you can't just be sort of anybody that comes from anywhere in a lot of roles. And so it's trying to find the right people that fit the mold. So like we're looking, 2023 will be, I think, a year, of continued significant growth for us, expansion, but also just really starting to enhance our product offering. We are already exploring some pretty significant material partnerships with folks that we're really excited about, that kind of we never would have conceived of when we started this crazy journey a few years back, but now we're like, that's really interesting. So I think, this is going to be a big evolutionary year for us coming up.
Oh, I love that idea. As we see technology partners finding a way to work together, to sit and share platforms together. I love what you're saying about the relationship side. And I think that there are a lot of other technology companies that are watching our conversation today. Yeah. And I think that because you are both operators as well as owners and investors, maybe you could talk a little bit about what that relational side looks like for you when you were on the operator side, and that mission I know you both bring from a really soulful level. And you are my 2 favorite Charleses. I don't care if there's a King Charles out there, if someone's listening today.
Sorry, Charles,
I know and trust both of you to be incredibly ethical and integrity focused gentlemen, as well as leaders. Could maybe, Charles Mann, you speak a little bit about that ethic around first asking how you can help, even if you're not the right solution? Maybe that piece that you hope other vendors will pick up as well, but what it means to you as an operator to add value to an operator's life.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, in that I certainly don't have it figured out. I feel like I generally just try harder, and do a lot of listening. I think that's the key. And I think to try things, I'm constantly trying things that fail, to be quite honest. But when you connect with a customer and you really listen and you ask questions, everybody kind of likes to be an inventor, and everybody likes to feel like that they're wearing the big hat. And I think if you can do that with one another and really glean information, like, Charles is running another company, but I get a lot of insight from him. I think the companies that you see that do really well and grow fast and really have a product that meets a need, they didn't think of that themselves a lot of times. A lot of times it came from experiences, in a building with an operator, through challenges, through a lot of failures. And so we know that there's going to be a lot of failures in the future, but we want to fail fast. We want to try a lot of things. And more than anything else, we want to ask a lot of questions. And again, I'll go on record. I do not even close to have it figured out. Even in the vertical that I'm in, right, of visitor management, reporting, vendor management, and doing all the tracking of people that come and go, I still learn things every day that I just never thought of. So, that I think is a secret sauce for Accushield. We're not the most successful company on the planet by any stretch of the imagination, but I think one of the things that we pride ourselves in is doing a lot of listening, doing a lot of case studies, and working with our customer base to figure out what works and what doesn't. So I'll leave it at that.
I love that. So if I were an operator and I come to visit both of you and I find you at AHCA, it really does sound like you want to hear from that customer, kind of those problems, even if those sets of problems may not be what you can.
Yeah.
And Charles, I know you and I go way back almost a decade when I first met you in your leadership role in operations. And, you were always really at the cutting edge. You want to talk a little bit about kind of that curiosity and, as Charles Mann discussed, kind of innovating like Edison, where you both have the ability to try things, and if they don't work, be able to pivot. Could you speak to that problem solving that you bring to the market?
Yeah, so that's right. It kind of goes back a ways, and one of the things I advise and have advised, anyone from startups to big like Fortune 500 companies on the kind of intersection of aging and technology, and they always want to, like, people come to these markets, they always want to, like, we got great tech, and it has, like, based on our pilots, we've reduced this problem by 27% or caused this uptick by 38%, whatever it is. Like, that's fantastic. And I always have to remind people in this space, no one really cares about your technology. We don't say, I think the technology behind KARE is fantastic. We don't sell the tech and how great it is. Like, we're not trying to solve your problem with a technical solution. It is a technical solution. But it's really more like, how do we sell the fact that, that some of the most successful technology companies in our space have really, really, really bad or really old technology, but they know how to solve a problem. They know how to build relationships with operators, and they have to build that sense of trust. They're not just selling feature function, they're not selling technology. And so, as we built our company, it's built on that premise of, like, the tech will speak for itself, but at the end of the day, it's like, how do we make sure we really know the customer, know their pain points? So we bring in a lot of people from industry, from different roles to understand their needs and wants and to solve a problem. And the technology is, is sort of secondary. And I've talked to other coaches, we think we can solve the labor issue with technology. Like, you can, but you can't, right? It's still a human issue. And how are you approaching this from a human issue, whether that's at a frontline caregiver level all the way to, the C-suite? Ultimately, it's who are you? What is your reputation in this industry? It's crazy. As big and fragmented as we are, it's still, you're only 2 degrees of Kevin Bacon away from people. So reputation is everything, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of both of you, you embody to me, and I hope you'll accept this as a compliment, and anyone that's listening, and this will obviously be shared again. You're gentlemen that really follow that Covey principle, and nobody cares how much you know till they know how much you care, and you really ask to learn, and you're listening to learn, and that to me is huge. And I love when you said you're less focused on your features and you're more focused on your customers' problems. What would you say, right now, on the horizon, we continue to see Charles Mann. Maybe you could speak to, that converse visitors coming in. One of the ways I see Accushield really supporting families is some of the, bad news stories that hit the markets around unwanted visitors or events that occur. Could you talk a little bit about that and how Accushield can protect an operator?
Yeah, one of the things that when I was an operator and I was an executive director in Atlanta, Georgia, was a lot of times I wanted to know when an individual got to the community, right? And I couldn't do that because I was using a paper sign-in book at the time. And one of the ways that we've sort of helped operators meet that need is by our text alert platform. So if there's an individual that's maybe not supposed to be in the building, maybe it's an estranged uncle, right, that maybe had stolen from a resident, or an individual that was identified, which actually happened here in Georgia, which was a ring of fake caregivers that were going into communities stealing things, right? We knew who they were. We knew where they were going, at least the area, and we were able to capture an individual via this text alert system that basically created a silent alert and alerted the individuals. They called the police and this person was arrested. And so those are the kind of things behind the scenes that the Accushield kiosk enables an operator to do. And that was based on a problem, right? Those are the things that we build. We're not trying to fabricate problems. We want to take problems, which there's a lot of them in senior living, and provide simple solutions and not overcomplicate or over-engineer it. Mm-hmm. And so that is one example of how we took that problem and created a solution right there at that front desk.
Oh, Charles, thank you. And Charles Turner, I won't tell you who, but I talked to a great clinical director the other day that is using KARE. Mm-hmm. And we walked through, and I love, maybe you can talk about the example of how your culture at KARE and the example is something that could be replicated, right, at a community culture. And what this clinical director said to me is, she says, I love KARE because if someone does call off, there's a backup, and KARE really cares. And I don't know if you could speak to that a little bit, Charles Turner, around kind of that idea, your really big picture around, yes, staffing agencies suck, but you're almost creating and showing our industry how to bring in, and maybe you could speak to that a little bit around the PRN, the person that wants to work just a night shift on a
right. So, it's people want to, kind of categorize us in sort of the staffing agency world, and I can understand why, because we have, use our platform to bring in supplemental labor, but what I don't think people quite don't understand is that if you look at their profile of our hero, everybody on our profile is called a hero. Just to be clear, we were doing that before it was cool. We did it before COVID for a very different reason. But if you look at our profile of our heroes, they're not people that generally work for staffing agencies. They fit one of two categories. So either we're their second job. Like we tell people all the time, like, people say, why would you let companies hire people off your platform for free? It's like, because I knew as an operator that 2/3 to 3/4 of our people, our frontline employees, had some form of second job. And so while I appreciated that they needed the second job for supplemental income, I got that. What I didn't quite appreciate at the time was how that second job, the structure of that second job, caused so much stress to people's lives, because, like, okay, I've got my normal job and job one, and then I've got this other one, and like, it's just the stress of life logistics, having to fit it all in with family and kids. And now for instance, we know I think it's about 70% of our frontline care force are single parents, roughly, or they have a dependent living at home, right? So you think about any second job, like that's just stress. So like, we just want to be everyone's second job because we know when you hire them, they're still going to be picking up shifts with us to make extra income, frankly, in a way that's like, that's why our heroes love working on our platform. That's one. So the second piece are people that are qualified to work, but if let's say they're a CNA, or let's say they're a med tech or LVN or whatever, and for we know if 70% of the people have a dependent at home, a minor dependent, and 30% have at least someone who's not a minor that they're dependent on for care from that person. It's like it's a huge population that has some dependency where they're responsible for someone at home, that maybe they can't work 40 hours a week. Well, they have to either work at a facility for 40 hours a week to get, benefits maybe, or they have to work for a staffing agency and have staff minimums. But one of the things we know to be true is that the biggest, one of the two biggest cohorts in care are people that work less than 40 hours a week. And I'm not saying they work less than 40 hours a week on care. They just work less than 40 hours a week, period. Mm-hmm. And so we've been able to take this qualified workforce, bring them back into the workforce, add capacity. Like I talk about Denver, Colorado a lot because that's a very, very tough labor market. Mm-hmm. It still is. However, we know we've been able, because of what we've done, we've been able to take average wages, let's say from a frontline caregiver from December 1st to now, to bring them down about $7 per hour. Now, that hero is still getting a lot of money. They're still getting, making more money than working at a staffing agency, but the cost to the community is so much less that it's sort of a win-win. And by doing that, by bringing enough people back into the workforce, we'll be able to reduce wages, reduce stress, increase occupancy, increase revenue for our operators. And so, because we built this system knowing we're not going after someone who just wants to be a staffing agency person. We want people like either the second job or the people that we just need to work part-time and make a little extra income.
Gosh, thank you so much. So I'd love to have all three of us together, or even just Charles, all three of us as we go into AHCA, and you have these incredible solutions, plus your great tenure, in serving communities. How are people going to find you? I know you have exhibit booths, but do you like?
Well, I think Charles Mann's he's gonna have dolphins right all over his booth. Like, just go to the dolphin booth.
No, that's just in my bathtub. I don't bring dolphins to exhibits.
Oh, okay.
I know we can find orange, your orange,
yep.
Charles. So, I mean, sometimes at conferences, Steve and I will hear people say, we didn't want to interrupt your conversation, or we saw you on an elevator, or we saw you on an escalator. And one of the things we like to say is, and Steve will be there, interrupt us.
Yeah.
Tap on my shoulder, hand me a business card, and I will make every effort to get back to you. I mean, can you talk about that personal philosophy, kind of your best practice in making sure you're available at a show like AHCA, and how people can find you?
Go for it, Turner.
Yeah, for us, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we're going to be obnoxiously orange. We're all going to have this T-shirt on that says, "Do you care?" on it. You really can't miss us. But Farah, to your point, for us, conferences like this are all about, they're building relationships. We're not, you can sign up at our booth. We'll be posting shifts in 50 minutes if that's what you want to do. And we have people that will help you do that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, for us, going to AHCA, it's like, okay, let's work with your company to figure out how where are you having your biggest pain points? And then let's figure out, okay, care is going to be a great solution to you, and these markets, maybe not in these other markets. And that's perfectly fine. Let's work with you to figure out how we get deployed correctly to those markets, because we can do it very quickly. Like I said, it only takes 15 minutes, but let's do this appropriately on how we roll it out, educate your local teams. And so I'm with you. Like, you interrupt us, it's okay. We want to make that relationship. I think we're bringing, 15 people or something like that.
Wow.
So you're not going to be able to miss us. We're going to be a little annoying, but that's who we are. It's a reflection of me, I guess. Unfortunately, I'm annoying.
Well, and I love, Charles, one of the things I really value, man, about your company, Accushield, is that idea of preservation and safety. Yeah. And so if someone has, again, those huge security problems, I know when I worked in operations, 9 out of 10 of our conversations are around all the problems that happened. It sounds like you're open to just tap my shoulder. And is that kind of that, just like Charles Turner said, find one of his 15 people, we're going to help find your flying dolphin.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, if you see me, please tap me on the shoulder, wave me down. I would love to talk about anything and everything in regards to safety and security from a
Here
people.
we go. Please interrupt us at booth 912. I have no idea. Just
There
says
you go.
LinkedIn
I did
user.
not know that. Yeah,
I don't know.
interrupt all
I
of
don't know
us.
if you have your booth number.
Thanks, LinkedIn user.
Totally fine. Yeah, that's.
I wish they put their name behind it. As partners to Senior Living Foresight, we're going to make sure our readers know where your booth is. And certainly, if they aren't already linked in with you, please link in with these two amazing, my favorite Charleses. Thank you so much, Charles Mann and Charles Turner, for joining the conversation today.
Thanks,
And
Fara.
Charles Moran, we love you too. You're not on here, but
you're part of this. You are.
You're part of this. In our
Thank
hearts.
you. And I'm going to trust my trusty production assistant to know when we're going to go